What the software flow says is that when the family of origin installs the software, you're running the programs now according to the software, according to Windows 61. And Windows 61 is creating the thoughts. It's creating the feelings, the actions. And I look at the sentences in your MOW because the sentences themselves, and we'll do this in subsequent classes, the sentences themselves, by the word choice, by the conjunction, you put and, you put probably, you put maybe, you put always, you put never, has been run by software. And when do you put I never can, or sometimes I don't? It's run by software. So if you install new software, it's going to run new programs, which means tomorrow morning when you wake up, if people go like, well, that just seems so hard to me, we have what I call the Amnesia program. So the Amnesia Tool is this. Let's say you've got this great class. Maybe you got several classes with me. And you go to sleep tonight. And this is it's a metaphor, but it's a reality. It can occasionally happen. It's rare. But you wake up tomorrow morning, you've lost your memory. No memory. You remember English and you know what a fork is, but you don't know your name. You look at your spouse, you don't know who they are. You get rushed off to the hospital. There's panic. You're panicked. Everybody's panicked. Doctors look at you, they run a battery test, and they come in and they talk to you and they say, wow, Bill, yeah, you don't have a tumor pressing on your brain. There's no physical realities to why the hard drive has stopped functioning that we can tell you. Here's what we know, and we don't know why, just sometimes. It might be a day, it might be a month, it might be never. You just have temporary amnesia. And so what we're going to do, we're going to put you in a rehab program. We're going to start rebuilding, start telling you your memories, start telling me your life again. And do the best you can, and hopefully sooner than later, your memory is going to come back. Well, your spouse remembers you had this great software guy, calls me up and says, hey, come in here, let's do a reprogramming of my spouse. They've lost their memory. So here's what's interesting about this. Number one, we're going to write Windows 14 software and bring it up to current speed. Now the data doesn't change. You still broke your leg. You still had this trauma. You're still divorced. But are we going to tell you that you're a limper, if that's in fact what you're doing today? Or are we going to focus on the strength that you got from it? And say, oh, in 1967 you broke your leg, but here's what you learned from it. And here's how you applied it. Now you could say, well, did I do that my whole life? And think about that. Are you going to ask that? You're going to like, well, not always. And you had your ups and downs. And we're not perfect. But here's your strength. Here's the rehab. Here's what's good. We're going to take the positive and make it even better. We're going to take the negative and glass half empty. We're going to diminish it. And we're going to write this software. And the data is real. Now, to help people understand this even more, let's say Windows 61. Remember back when the internet first came out, it was very short domain addresses. You know, BillSumner.com. That's about all you could get. But in Windows 14, and let's say that was 15 characters, in Windows 14, it's got more characters, up to 25. So we can say, Bill Sumner lives in Littleton, Colorado, and runs an amazing coaching program.com. We've added to the functionality and power of the software. Now, when it goes back and looks at that data, 25 characters looks at 15. What the system does is, number one, is it saves the data so that if you ever, in its original format, if you ever need it or you need to fall back, you've always got it. But number two, all it does is it adds 10 zeros to every data field. And if I add 10 zeros to every data field, does it change the data? Does it change the memory? Does it change the broken leg? And the answer is, of course not. But now, when Windows 14 looks at the data, which is the same, does it draw the same conclusion? And the answer is, depends on the software. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And because you're designing this very specifically to interpret, can I succeed? Can I dream? Where will I fail? Do I avoid failure and spilling milk? To dream differently. To know that that broken leg produced your greatest strength, to be filled with gratitude. The software will not draw the same conclusion. That's why this is real. So in this process of looking at the data, you are building a bigger, better, newer you. And NY new you is my shorthand. Now here's the question. Day 1, day 2, day 10, month 1, month 3, month 5. 6 months goes by. And on the 6th month, the 30th day, and for 180 days, we've hammered you with Windows 14 software. The question I have for you is, are you really little Billy, old you, Windows 61, somehow, some way you figured out how to come back in and be you? Or are you new you? Are you this amazing Windows 14 person? The reality is, when I do this with clients, and the first time I talk to people, this is why it's the 4th barrier, what people say to me is, oh, dude, I figure out how to be me. Same mistakes will come through. I know how to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. I'm good. I'm above average. I'm a good person, but I'm not some gold medal, peekaboo street rock star. I'm not that. And the answer is no. Of course, you don't know any different. The little 4-year-old you is now 20, 30, 40, 50, wherever you are in the program. It's Windows 14. You don't settle for tricycles. You ride bikes. You're crazy. And so now you have that to deal with. And here's the more important question. On the 7th month, you wake up that morning and all of your memories have returned. All of Windows 61 is in there. Now the question is, who are you that day? And that's a tougher question. And people say, I know the answer should be I'm 14. But the reality is, it's a trick question. It's going to be whichever software you choose to run. If you choose 14, you're going to experience everything that software was designed to do. If it's 61, it's everything. Now, if you start off the morning as 14, and at 10 o'clock you get a difficult email that's got bad news, and that scares you, and you open up 61 unconsciously, because remember, in 3 nanoseconds, Windows 61 is open and running. All the old fears, old anxieties, they're all back. And you're going, what is wrong with me? Why did I ever believe I could be a rock star? No. You close 61, you go, thank you. Love you, buddy. You were good software in the day. You love me, but I don't need you right now. I got this new powerful, and I'm awesome. I'm fine. I don't need you. And you reopen up. And again, these are all subsequent classes. This is just a barrier to tell you that when you look at your life, now what happens is when you run new software, the program shifts, your action shifts. You condition in, take consistent new Windows 14. New habits begin to form. It becomes easier and easier and easier. And maybe if you have a hiccup and you have a big emergency, 61 is just dying to get in there. Because if you've ever run software, if you've ever run Windows 7, I remember the first time on Windows 7, got this giant ass print button. You would think the technician installed my software, he transferred my data, I was all good to go, gave me some little short training. Windows 7, very intuitive, sir. I went to hit print button. Nothing happens. Print, nothing happens. Print, nothing happens. Google it, YouTube, I can't figure it out. I called the technician, I'm like, hey. He goes, oh, yeah, there's this one-time little box you have to fix. You got to go in and open this window and go here and do that. See that box? Just check that box. Now the print button works. Now, if karma was nice to me and I was just having fun and wanted to print something, I wasn't in a hurry, and I managed to get a hold of my technician, then I'm happy with Windows 7. I never have to worry about that button again. But if karma is not nice to me, fate decides to mess with my mind, and then it's a big important project, my boss is screaming at me, I want that document! I'm going to go back to XP and print and go, you know what, Windows 7, for me, it's stupid. And whether I blame myself because I couldn't figure it out or I blame Windows 7, it doesn't matter. And so when you have a psychological transformational breakthrough, a lot of times fear and failure goes up dramatically. If you think about it, you've been climbing the mountain, climbing, and you're stuck here. Go up, slide back, go up, slide back, wander all around, explore the crap out of that place. If all of a sudden you're now climbing higher and higher and higher, you're going to be in places you've never been before. Failure goes up, fear goes up. So all these things are happening. The new actions reveal what's really taking. And any deviation from the pattern, not the individual song on the radio that's going to trip up, but a deviation from the pattern says the software was unsuccessful installation, and we got to go back and look at that.